Did you see this football player basically? Now, this is the first. I've seen flat earthers. We're not going to call them out. We're going to jump over flat earth. This, I believe, is the first space is fake guy in high level sports. Texas Tech's Tyler Owens says he doesn't believe in space. Let's check it out.
You guys are discussing that you don't believe in.
Nah, I don't believe in space. I'm like, I'm real religious, so I think like we're in the wrong right now. I don't think there's like other planets and other stuff like that. I don't know.
What led you to that point to believe that?
Well, like I thought you should believe like the heliocentric.
I just want to point out how there's like 7 guys mumbling right now at the exact same voice in the back going, well, I didn't really know. There's all these Texas accents.
Like we get some wild around the sun and stuff, but then like I started seeing like flat Earth stuff, and I'm like, that was just kind of interesting. And then they start bringing up valid points. So, I mean, I don't know. Could be real. You know what I'm saying? So,
the fact that he's willing to say that in interviews means he does think it's real. I'm going to go out and say that right now. You don't just bring up space is fake in an interview for like draft the NFL Combine and just and not be serious about it. I don't know where to think about that. What's the connection he's talking about? And I think I know, but I want to explain for the audience between he's saying being religious and thinking it's a flat earth or space is fake.
So I just retweeted that. I said, hope he gets picked up by a team. I have a new favorite player. So,
all right, go off, as they say.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I don't get into it that much because it's one of these topics that you get just weird press and everybody acts weird. But I kind of agree with them. I'm not saying space is fake, but I've done a lot of research on as far as like what do we do in space. So we go to the International Space Station. They call space there's a certain space that they call space, but most people don't even do enough research to know that they think space, like normal people that don't do research. Trying to not be condescending. I'm like, us no spacers know what we're talking about. But no, like, they think that space means outside of Earth's atmosphere. But even according to NASA website, space is just above a certain amount. So the International Space Station is actually in Earth's atmosphere, according to NASA, not me. The Hubble telescope is in Earth's atmosphere. There's even articles that say that Earth's atmosphere expands out past the moon. So Earth's, like all the things we do in space are actually within Earth's atmosphere, which leads a lot of people to think that a lot of that other stuff is just fairy tales and stories. And, I don't, it's not a huge sense that I have, but I'm leaning in that direction, to be quite honest, that I'll believe it. Like when I get more evidence and like, they're not just like doing climate change studies in Antarctica and like not showing footage and all this and can't go back, or we don't have the money, even though they take 20 billion taxpayer. So I get where he's coming from, but then, the religious aspect of it, not all, because most Christians probably believe in the globe, not the flatty patty. But, there is a growing group of Christians that says that there's one part of the Bible that mentions the firmament. And I believe that some people are saying that the firmament means that it's actually, more of like a dome or an enclosed area than like a open, solar system, like that whole theory. So, he's clearly gone down that rabbit hole. And, he's just, I'm pretty surprised he like said it to the public, because the funny thing is like, is it a big deal that he believes that? Absolutely not. But the NFL and the NBA are such cucked fake organizations that like, that could affect him being picked up by a team. But good for him. He's like, yeah, I don't believe in space. Yeah, suck my dick. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just like, that's this whole vibe where he's like, he doesn't care. And it's like, you might want to wait till you get the contract to say that shit, but I don't care.
According to Brave, firmament is mentioned 17 times in the King James Version of the Bible. I know I've read a couple portions of it where it did say that specifically. Now, where I stand on a lot of this is not to do with necessarily what's true and what's not. There's a few red flags that go up for me whenever you talk to somebody about this. One, it's how offended people get when you suggest something might be different than what they actually know. Now, I've had conversations with friends where they've cited things about space travel, and they've cited things about, they always have mentioned over the course of my adulthood, the Goldilocks zone, in which there's always a planet that's like Earth that we could live on, and then you never hear about it again. Stuff like that. And my point is, this is sort of just relayed information. That's a lot of guesswork. And you'd be surprised at how much guesswork you find in professional establishments, particularly museums that I've been in, where I'll ask questions and I'll be like, how do you know that? And they'll be like, it's our best guess. And I'm like, that's interesting, because when you're a child, you're presented as a lot of these things are fact, especially in relation to ancient history. They don't really say, well, this is one of the theories. Besides maybe the pyramids, they don't really say that this is just one of the perspectives or one scientist in particular who wrote this textbook that we're listening to right now. So the anger with which people respond and say that they don't want to, they're above talking about it, is always a red flag for me. But a lot of the coverage of such things is suspicious to me. There's that old thing where it's like the Flat Earth Society of Facebook says they're all around the globe. It's like, well, that's an obvious troll page that you're falling for. So that's level one. And then you've got a Netflix documentary that I watched a few years ago about flat earthers, and it was basically just about a love story. They did, I think, 2 experiments in that movie that failed. One of them being, I forget what it's called, but it's the machine that tracks the rotation of the Earth, because the clock, the time would change slightly if it was in a different point of the Earth. I forget how it's measured, but they failed that one. And then they also failed putting a beam of light straight across a lake and having it end up exactly the same on a beam or a piece of wood. They failed a couple things, but 95% of this documentary was just about, it was like a 90s bad documentary, which was vaguely about the topic, but actually about a love story. So there's a lot of things that make me question the coverage of it and the fact that people don't have answers to things. All I want is answers to the questions. And what I ever see, or not what I only see, but what I often see, is people not being able to answer the questions, because almost nobody in the world is an astrophysicist or astronomer or anything like that, so nobody can really answer those questions in your daily life. And I think it's weird that people take up such a strong position on something just because they were taught it, whereas what we know about elections and wars and everything is filtered through governments and historians that gets mixed around. People aren't sure how the pyramids got built. There's tons of different theories out there, but nobody's going to get mad at you if you say you think it was built by slaves, or if you think they had advanced instruments, or they were a much more advanced civilization of the time. Nobody's going to get mad at you for that. But for some reason, people get mad at other people for asking questions about space travel or the distance between the Earth and the sun. I don't know almost anything about it, but what I do know is that neither do most people, other than the fact that they've read it somewhere. And if you're going to tell me that the only organization out there in the United States, which is NASA, specifically detailing with space travel, now there's SpaceX, but historically, is, how they started and how they were funded, and they make $80 billion a year off the taxpayer. If you're going to tell me that we have to believe them, then I'm going to say no, because you're telling me that I have to believe one source like that, and I'm not really down for that.
Yeah, there's other countries though too. I mean, that would be easily fact checked what you just said, but because there's other countries that have space agencies as well. But I agree with you. I don't believe them. I'm just saying to say that there's only one, that's what they would say, and then you'd be like, shoot. And that's kind of what happens, I think, a lot. And, I've been on a flat earth dating app for years. I haven't got one swipe, so I'm trying to figure out what's going on. But no, you saw what they did during the lockdowns. They said, you're not a pharmaceutical expert, you're not a scientist, and, these are 100% effective, or 99 or 98, 50, 40, whatever, get your 5th one. And when you see that, they lie about everything that's happening at the present moment. They lie about every war. There's laws in certain countries that will throw you in jail if you question certain parts of history. It's like all of these things. It's like the best way to earn trust is just to be trustworthy. And all of these science organizations in America and probably around the world have lost the trust of other people. So they did a moon landing recently in America, and it was some private company. And I was looking for the footage, and then there was no footage. There was only footage of them clapping, and they're like, we can't download it. And it's just that's not really convincing. But the one argument that they do have to counter everybody is like, well, everyone would have to be in on it, as far as Russia and America and all these countries. And it's like, yeah, that would be crazy, but also every country, like pretty much on the planet, locked all their citizens down for at least a couple weeks. 99% of them did, and the ones that didn't, you talk shit about, and their leaders like mysteriously, like, weird things happen. So yeah, I mean, I definitely don't talk about it all the time because it's not something I'm like a huge expert in. But yeah, dude, the no space thing is very interesting. Uh, I think the most compelling part of that argument would be that Hubble telescope is in Earth's atmosphere. Fact, according to NASA. Hubble telescope, International Space Station, in Earth's atmosphere, according to NASA. All these things that you think are outside the atmosphere, in the atmosphere. Because when you say space, I could go on the street and I could ask 99% of people, what does space mean? Like, what from what foot to what foot is considered space? What, like, no one knows. And then they have that snarky, like, oh, you got to talk to me. And then the science majors are kind of like the teachers. They're like liberal teachers, where they're so egotistical because they think they know everything because they read a book of what someone else told them. And yeah, dude, that's my new favorite football player. I don't care how bad he is. I don't care if he's got an attitude problem. If he has some like personal family problem, I'm on his side before I even know the true story. Like, that's my brother right there.
Getting extreme here. This is a meme I saw the other day. Obviously, I don't have any idea if what's on the top is actually from the landing, but basically mocking the footage. What's wild is that they live streamed from the moon in 1969. That's with relatively clear audio and video, and said that they can never go back. Maybe it's just too difficult. There's a lot of things, but that's like a whole other show.
I won't bore you, but it's like they said they lost the telemetry data. Don Pettit, you've seen that clip, oldest astronaut, says, I'd go back to the moon in a nanosecond. Problem is we don't have the technology to do that. We lost it. They said that the tape got taped over. Then they said it sold at a garage sale. It's like they can't even get one story and stick to it, which is hilarious because, you as a sports fan like me, I compare it to like, did they lose Jordan's like game-winning shot, that ball? Like, no, it's in a museum somewhere. Jordan has it, and it's probably worth a lot of money. Like, imagine just being like, oh, we gave it to a kindergartner to play basketball in, and they destroyed it. It threw it in the trash can after the game. Like, that doesn't, dude. And a Jordan ball, as great as Jordan is nowhere near the freaking moon landing original tape. That's probably the greatest tape in the history of modern humanity and all of humanity, because they probably didn't have tapes back then. And you lost it or sold it to an intern, dude. I want to be an intern for NASA, dude. You come up on a multi-million-dollar tape because there's no way. Oh, we just taped over it by a mistake. By a mistake? Like, dude, don't get me started because I'll ruin this whole live stream.
Turn it up, Jordan.